All right, welcome to the GreenLight Investor for the week ending October 30th, 2015. Our goal at the GreenLight Investor is to provide a resource to help make managing your 401k both a simple and easy process. We do this by using red, green, and yellow cells to help you decide when to buy, what to buy, and when to sell. This presentation is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as personal investment advice. If you need to take a moment to read through this disclaimer, please do so now. You can pause this video and then continue once you've read it. The examples I'll be showing you this afternoon are exactly that. They're examples of how you can use this worksheet as an additional resource to help make fund choices within your 401k plan. Always refer to your own investment policy to make certain that the choices you're making are appropriate for both your investment time horizon as well as your understanding and acceptance for taking risk in financial markets. All right, let's start out by going right to our worksheet. I'll go through an overview of the worksheet and highlight a few of its key features, and then I'll show you how you can use this to allocate assets within your 401k plan. On the left side of the worksheet, we have the investment choices available to you, and we highlight the fund number, the symbol, the fund name, and a description of the fund. Categories that we've separated this into are the core investments, which are the index funds, and as we scroll down we'll go into the satellite investments, starting with the most conservative towards the top, and we'll get progressively more aggressive as we move down. The money markets, the fixed income, we have the U.S. growth and income funds, the U.S. equity funds, international funds, and finally, at the bottom we have the sector funds. Center section of the worksheet is the performance for 2015, and each week we update this by showing you the closing price, the month-to-date return, quarter-to-date return, and the year-to-date return for each of the funds listed here. The reason we feel this is important so you can keep track of how your investment choices are doing compared to other funds on the worksheet, and especially how the funds in each of the categories are doing relative to the choices you're making in your own categories. One of the neat things about this worksheet is that we show the weekly trends. And by this, what I mean is each week we'll show you which funds are performing the best, and then we'll do this by highlighting those in column V, and you'll see those with the brighter green lights are the stronger on a week-over-week basis, and those with the brighter red lights will be the weakest on a week-over-week basis. And just to the right of this, we'll keep cumulative scores on a week-over-week basis so that you can keep track of the trend, as it's developing, and see when the numerical values here are getting stronger or when the numerical values are getting weaker. And as we've seen in this fund, the U.S. equity funds, we've seen the numerical values progressively get stronger until they finally turned green and went positive this week. So that's showing strength in this fund compared to the other funds. So it's an easy way for you to find out which funds have been performing the best and which ones are struggling. When you see a lot of red, and especially when you see the numerical values getting lower or weakening, those are funds that you tend to stay away from, as those are underperforming the overall market. As we scroll down, we can see that we still have quite a bit of red in our fixed income, our growth and income funds. We also have a lot of red, though we are seeing the first green light up here. We haven't seen one since back in August 14th of this year, so it's been quite a while. The U.S. equity fund has been the strongest overall group of funds in this selection. Even though it's been a little bit choppy, it's starting to turn green again. And column U, which is our long-term trend, is actually showing a number of the bullish signals which are important. We like to stay with the longer term trends, and particularly when we have a bullish signal in column U, as well as at least two of the green lights in column W and X. That's showing that there may be a trend developing in this fund. And here we have a number of other funds that are almost meeting this criteria. If you're an aggressive investor, you can get into these funds just a little bit earlier when you start to see the green lights or you see the numerical values increasing. Gives you an opportunity for the more aggressive stance to get in a fund just a little bit early, as well as to get a little bit early if you're seeing the weakness up here. As we continue down, we're seeing the international funds are still showing the long-term trend is basically neutral to bearish, and to the right side we haven't seen a green light here in quite some time. And finally, in the sector funds, we are seeing more of the green lights. We're actually seeing a number of the different funds turning green, and we do have two of the different funds, or actually three of them, that have green lights in column U, and we're seeing a number of different weeks where we've had strong signals to the right of column V. So that's how we use the red, green, and yellow cells to help you decide which are the stronger and which ones are the weaker funds that you may want to be looking at. Now let's go ahead and go into a different section of this worksheet. By clicking on my current allocation, click Show, we'll go to where you can actually keep track of how your funds are allocated. Down column H, when you make changes within your 401k plan, you can keep track of them on this worksheet. Please remember that this worksheet is meant to only mirror what your actual choices are. To make changes in your 401k, you'll have to go into your 401k plan and make the changes there, and then this is a good way to track them and see if any changes are needed to be made. To do so, I usually slide the slider over so that I can see the current week and I can see the long-term, intermediate, and short-term, as well as the year-to-date return for each of the funds. That way I can track that right next to the fund allocations. Here we're seeing where we have a target allocation of 10% we'd like to have in the index funds, the core funds. Right now this looks like the best candidate to be going to, as we see one green light. And what we'll look for next week is if we see a second green light and the long-term trend turn positive. If we see that, we'll be taking this 10% and going into this fund if this is the one that continues. As we scroll down, we're seeing that we still have a 50% allocation into the money market funds. We did so because we saw so many red lights since the August 14th time frame. When we look at our fixed income, we still have all red cells to the right and basically all red cells to the left, so we're staying away from this until we start to see some green lights appear. In our U.S. growth and income funds, we are seeing 3 green lights in the fund here, and what we would like to see is a positive green light appear here. One thing that you can notice, as I mentioned earlier, is we are seeing several weeks where the fund is getting stronger. So if you're an aggressive investor, you can use this as an early signal to get into this fund, but just be aware that it may not turn green on you, and at that point you may have to move back. But if you're an aggressive investor, this is a good way to kind of front run the change in the green light system. Next, let's go down to our U.S. equity funds. Here we have a 30% allocation we would like to have. We have 20% allocated, and we've stayed in this fund just waiting to see if we're seeing the green lights. We've been long-term bullish, and we actually are seeing a number of different funds that are long-term bullish. And just as in the previous example, if you're seeing a green light appear and you're an aggressive investor, the funds have been strengthening over the last several weeks. So if you're an aggressive investor, you may want to do an allocation come Monday into your funds. But the way the system generally works for the average investor is we like to see 2 green lights to the right, and that's a week-over-week basis, as well as a green light in the column U, which is the long-term trend. So we're going to wait one more week for a second. Actually, as I scroll down, I see this. We have 2 here. So let's go ahead and make this change right now. So since we do see this 2 green lights, let's go ahead and take 10% out of our money market. So that'll leave us with a 40% allocation. And what we'll be doing is when we be moving down to where we see our 2 green lights and a green light in column U, which is the long-term trend. So come Monday, what you would do is you would go over here, take an extra 10% allocation from the money market, and you could move that right over to fund number 868, the Vanguard Growth Index Fund. And let's continue to go down with our examples. That moves us 60% into this market. And let's go down to our international funds. Here we would like to have a 30% allocation. In a similar situation, we only have 20% invested. And we are seeing red lights, and we're actually seeing the weakening here. But we do have a green light in the long-term trend. So with that, I am going to leave this here for one more week. And if this weakens and we lose this green light to the left, at that point we'll be reallocating this 20%. Let's go ahead and continue down. In our sector funds, we have a 15% allocation. Currently, we have 10% in this group. In this category, we have 10% in this real estate fund. We've seen green lights to the right, and the long-term trend is bullish. Same situation if you're aggressive. Any of these funds here, or actually this fund here, would be all right to go into because we have 3 green lights to the left and the long term is bullish. And we've seen the trend score increase over the last couple of weeks. So you could be an early investor. If this does strengthen for one more week and this stays bullish to the left, we'll be allocating another 10 or 5% to round out this category. That's what we have. And that's how you can use this to allocate funds in and out of the different funds available to you. Let's go ahead and go back to our home page. And to do so, you simply click on the View, Custom Views, and let's go back to the With Performance columns. And with that, it'll take you back to the home page. If you'd like any additional information, you can always go to our website at greenlightinvestor.org and download a copy of this worksheet so you can keep track of it as an extra resource for making decisions within your 401k. I hope this has been helpful and has given you some ideas and resources for managing your 401k choices. You can always email me at jweixner@greenlightinvestor.org, and I'd be happy to answer any personal questions that you may have. That's what I've got for the week. I hope you do enjoy the rest of your weekend and have a great week ahead. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video.